You see the same person every day. 11. Stop. You see the same person. No. You see this. I'm gonna stop. Stop.
Mommy.
You see the same person at 11. You see the same. If you don't stop it, little boy. You see the. Hey family, it's Danielle, and today we are going to do a marriage chat. Yes, long time coming for us to sit down and do a marriage chat. So today we're going to just chat it up and talk about being married during quarantine and isolation and how that has affected relationships and all of that good stuff. So stick around, grab your drink, your coffee, tea, water, wine, martini, whatever it is you're sipping on right now. Grab that and let's chat it up. So I'm sure you guys have seen all of the memes flying around that are discussing at the end of quarantine, you're either going to come out divorced or pregnant. And so that sparked me to think, I need to sit with my family and we need to chat about this whole thing. My thought was, why is it one or the other? It's kind of saying like, oh, well, since you're home isolated with your significant other, either y'all are fighting all the time and arguing, so y'all are going to get divorced, or either y'all having a whole lot of sex, so you're going to get pregnant. Like, there's no gray there. And I think sometimes those messages is what kind of misconstrues the idea and thoughts of what relationships are. So I just wanted to chat with you guys about that whole idea and talk about the gray, because there is some gray in this whole being isolated and quarantined with your significant other. Let's start with the whole divorce portion of this. To say that, oh, during this isolation and being with your spouse, there's a strong possibility you may come out divorced. Is that because you were spending a whole bunch of time with your significant other and having all of that time with them is what led to divorce? Or did having this time highlight and bring to surface all of the underlying issues that have been brushed under the rug? But that's kind of what I want to talk about with the divorce side. So let's start there. So we know that some of the top reasons for divorce are lack of communication, kids, unfortunately, and finances. So those are usually like the top three. Not saying that those are the only reasons why people get divorced, but those are usually kind of the top three reasons that lead to divorce. So if at the end of quarantine, somebody does a major study and research and find that a significant amount of couples actually did get divorced, the question would become, was it because of one of those reasons, or was it strictly because we were isolated together and you got on my nerves and I realized I didn't want to be married to you? So then with adding being with your significant other 24/7 could lead to divorce. That would be the question. I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say, I don't think that is that it's the idea of being with your partner 24/7 that would lead to divorce. What I'm going to say is it is these things, these other things that are highlighted now, that are exasperated by the fact that you are together 24/7, and there are no longer distractions to distract you from the things that were already a problem in your relationship. So let's start with communication. If there had already been a lack of communication in your relationship and a lack of connection, then the distraction of work and your kids being in school and chores and activities and traveling and friends and socializing and all of these things became a distraction and took away from the lack of communication. Example of that would be you guys get home from work 5, 6 o'clock, you cook dinner, you talk about mundane things. How was work? It was great. It was horrible. I'm so excited about this new project. Whatever the case may be, you talk to the kids about how was school. Dinner's over. One of you guys conquer bath time. The other one cleans up the kitchen. You put the kids to bed. You read a story. The time is now 8, 9 o'clock, maybe even later. You guys get in bed, scroll through Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media platform is your poison, and you go to bed and you do it all over again in the morning. So you have all of these distractions that prevent you from focusing on the fact that we aren't actually communicating. We are not connecting on a deeper level. You take the weekend when you don't have work, but you filled your weekend with t-ball, baseball, soccer, swim lessons, this lesson, that lesson, or we're traveling, or we're entertaining friends and they're over and we're communicating and laughing with them. And so even still, on the times when the distraction of work could be removed, we fill it with another distraction. So all the while not focusing on the fact that we have a lack of communication. And this is why typically when the kids move out of the house or retirement happens, you'll see a lot of couples get divorced because the distractions are gone and we're stuck with each other, and it's like, hold up, there's zero connection here, zero communication, where this was a problem all along. It's just that we weren't focused on it. So in rolls 2020, and now we are isolated and quarantined, and some of us not working from home, workloads have been downsized or whatever the case may be. The kids are home. So things have changed. And so now we have to fill our day, 16 hours plus of our day, with each other. And we're walking by one another all day with no communication and no connection. And then you suddenly realize, oh my God, like there is nothing here. There's no communication. There's no connection. So it's highlighted. And so it's that lack of communication that then leads to other issues and problems. And so when we talk about communication, we have to talk about expectations and what our expectations are in communicating with our spouse or communicating about anything. So that becomes a huge issue. And so piggybacking off of that, there also becomes new roles and new expectations within the relationship. So for example, if before the expectation was you're working, I'm home, so I'll take care of dinner, or I'll take care of this, or however you guys have split roles in your relationship, well, then you take away something or a responsibility, say work, say one of you guys are no longer working, and so now we're both home. Well, now my expectations may change. You're home, so I expect you to fix dinner, whereas the other person may feel like nothing should change, so I'm not going to fix dinner just because I'm home now. Whereas the expectations have changed. And because we're not communicating and connecting, we're not expressing those expectations of one another. So there's that whole thing, that whole piece there of again, lack of communication. Let's also throw in there the kids. If we have once divided and conquered the kids in a certain way, or the kids were at school for 8 hours a day, or the kids had all these activities or whatever, and it was a valid distraction, and now all of that is gone, and the kids are home with both of us all day, bring in those expectations again. Those things may change. So if I am expecting you to give Bobby a bath and you're not doing it, or if I am expecting you to help out with the laundry or with the homework or the grocery shopping or whatever, and that's not happening, then there's going to be some problems. There's going to be some friction, obviously. And again, if we are just kind of passing by one another and not expressing these expectations, then these things build over time. The same thing plays true with finances. And I think finances may be one of the biggest things here, because if your finances were cut drastically, or if you were worried that your finances were cut drastically, and finances have always been kind of a sore spot or touchy spot in your relationship, and then you throw in a crisis, man, it's gonna magnify that issue. So if I'm saying you need to slow down on your spending, or if I didn't even know you were spending what you were spending because I was at work and now I'm home and I see all these Amazon boxes showing up, I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. We need to talk about this. And crises now highlights, again, an issue that we had swept under the rug, and we're not dealing with and talking about and expressing our expectations or disappointments or whatever the case may be. And now we're home and we're fighting about it. We're fighting about these things 24/7. We're not communicating. We're not connecting. We're fighting about how the kids should be raised. We're fighting about discipline. We're fighting about money. We're fighting about lack of connection. We're fighting about not putting the toilet seat down. We're fighting. So it's all these underlying issues that surface, not necessarily the being with that person all day, every day. I hope I'm kind of making sense. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that it's more so that than it is the seeing the same person every day and being with that person every day? I think society would lead you to believe that being with your partner every day, all day, is unhealthy or can be unhealthy. And I think it only becomes unhealthy or can be unhealthy when you don't have the connection and you're not communicating with one another. That is what makes it unhealthy. So the flip side of that is, well, you're going to come out pregnant. And I'm going to, again, play devil's advocate here, because that would then say, okay, well, all we're doing is humping like bunny rabbits during this quarantine. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but what that can imply is that that's all we're doing. We're not doing anything else but having sex during this quarantine. And while that may be true for some couples, you have to ask yourself, is the sex becoming a distraction, or is the sex playing the role of the distraction from the lack of communication or all the other issues? So we took out the distraction of work, or we took out the distraction of all these other things. We have no connection. We have no communication. So we just have sex with each other. And that is the glue or the bond that's keeping us together. But we still have all these underlying issues going on. That's kind of my devil's advocate of that saying and that theory. So I want to talk about the gray and how most couples, I think, or I hope a lot of couples have that gray area. You're not going to come out divorced, and you may not come out pregnant, or you may come out pregnant and it's not so much because you were humping like bunny rabbits. There is a gray. Like, as a healthy couple, we may argue a little bit more now because we're home together and we're seeing things and we're communicating and we're expressing expectations. And so the arguments may be a little more frequent. And on the flip side, we may have more sex now because I'm not as exhausted as I was before, because you are here helping me, being my helpmate, taking off the load of things that I once done before, or because I'm not exhausted from working all day or being gone or dealing with work issues or whatever the case may be. So that frees up the opportunity for us to have more sex, or because we're home and we're together and we're connecting and communicating on such a deeper level that it opens up the emotions for us to have more sex. Or maybe we're not having as much sex as people would think we are because we are home and the kids are home and we are tackling this battle all day, every day. And by the time we get to bed, we're just exhausted. And so we're just enjoying one another's company and communication and tackling, getting through this crisis together. That's okay. Let me just say, that's okay to be that couple as well. It's kind of like, why isn't the gray of relationships being talked about? Why, to me, this quarantine provided an awesome opportunity for couples and marriage therapists and marriage counselors and marriage coaches and all of these people, pastors, whoever, who usually talks about relationships. This, to me, provided the perfect opportunity to help couples connect on a deeper level. We will probably not be afforded this kind of opportunity ever again. And so this quarantine time could have been a time to reconnect to your spouse and come out on this thing healthier and happier. Not divorced and not pregnant per se, but just healthier and happier and more connected as a couple. How does that look? How does that happen? Well, if you have been following me for quite a while, you know we do marriage challenges. And one of those marriage challenges was spending 15 minutes talking to your significant other about anything other than work, kids, and bills. And so if you did that challenge, I hope that it stuck and you continue to do it, and the 15 minutes turned into 30 minutes to an hour to a day or however or whatever. And so now that you are in quarantine and isolated with your best friend, the love of your life, the person you vowed to spend the rest of your life with, now that you guys have the opportunity to just be together uninterrupted every day for hours at a time, being able to communicate and connect is easier for you because you have this tool to know how to communicate beyond the surfacey and mundane things. We can communicate and we can express expectations in a healthy way. So that may look like, hey, I'll use me and my husband for an example. It may look like, hey, you're home, we're both home, because for a while he was traveling to our second location and would be gone weeks at a time. So it's like, okay, hey, you're home now, I'm home now. Also, because I'm not having to go and put out fires at the location here. So can we split up these duties at home as much as possible? And that may look like you cook breakfast, I cook lunch, we cook dinner together. Or you cook Tuesday, I'll cook Wednesday. Or whatever the case, whatever works. Or I'm exhausted today, I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to lay in my bed. Okay, I got you. I'll take care of today. And then maybe next week, I'm exhausted. I don't feel like doing anything. Can you take care of today? Okay, I got you. And we're talking and expressing those expectations and communicating our feelings and needs and wants. And the other person respects, because respect is a huge part of this, respects us enough to hear that expectation or hear that concern and figure out a way on how we can both benefit from this. It's not a battle. We're a team. So it's not like we're fighting each other. You need to go cook breakfast because I do it every day. That becomes a me versus you, versus I'm exhausted and here's an opportunity that we just have never gotten before. I would love to have your help, and I respect that, and so I'm going to help you do that. I hope that makes sense how I'm explaining that. Same thing with the kids. We had kind of a routine in place and a way we did things, because again, he would be traveling and would be gone for weeks at a time. And so there was a routine and a way we did things and a way I did things. And then now all of a sudden, daddy's here all day, every day, and that routine is shot. And it's easy for the person who has set the routine to get irritated or frustrated and feel like, no, this is not how we do it, and want that person to get in line with how we do things. However, the flip side of that is, what's the beauty in this? Okay, so daddy's home and he's shaking up the routine a little bit. What is the beauty in that? What is the benefit in this? How is there some positive in that? And stepping back a little bit and giving and releasing this whole idea of routine and this is how it has to be, because I have you here. So maybe, yes, this routine worked and was beneficial for me because of that time I was in, because I was essentially doing it by myself. But maybe now that you're here, this routine doesn't have to be this way because I have the extra help. Y'all get me? Y'all following me there? It changes things. The roles change, the expectations change. There's that word again. What do you guys think? Do you think that could be the case, or do you think, nope, a routine is a routine and it doesn't need to change? Having that ability to loosen up your expectations a little bit and let the other person feel needed and wanted and like they can help in some kind of way. Because I think sometimes it becomes easy to say, no, I got it. You don't know how this works, or you don't know how this runs, or this is how we do it all the time. And then that can leave me feeling, okay, so what's the purpose of me being here right now, especially if I've lost what I thought was my main purpose, which could be the job or the working. So I hope that makes sense. But that's what I mean by that whole gray area. There's a whole nother section that I think society isn't talking about. And I think that becomes an issue for young couples, for people who are considering getting married or entering into a long-term relationship, or maybe even couples who are in the trenches at this time in their relationship, and then they see things like, oh, you're either going to be this or that when this is over. And then it makes you feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm obviously not going to come out of this thing pregnant because I can barely stand to look at this person. So then all that leaves is divorce. Whereas I think this could have provided those couples maybe the opportunity to see it isn't either or, but there is a middle and there is a gray. And this quarantine could be healthy and good for you guys, because name another time where we don't have any real distractions and we can literally just focus on us and our relationship and how it can improve and get better and we come out of this thing stronger. Providing them that would give a sense of hope and understanding that there isn't a either or an or. You know, even with the latter that I think people are saying in a positive way, you know, I don't think people are saying that negatively when they say, well, you're going to come out pregnant. But I do think that sometimes can come off as a negative. And I won't go into long details in regards to, you know, the whole thoughts on sex within a relationship or a marriage, because I have a whole video on that. So if you guys have not checked that out, I will leave it linked for you guys to check it out. But I do think that when you put those kind of pressures or stipulations into a person's mind or a person in a relationship, it does become pressure, and it does become a burden that you tend to carry around, and you think it has to be this or that. There isn't necessarily a middle ground. When there is a middle ground, it's just that from what I've seen, no one is necessarily talking about it. So the middle isn't as pretty, I think. The middle isn't as dramatized, which is why the middle does not get publicized. I'm not saying that being with the same person every day, all day, isn't going to bring on a different type of struggle. You see the same person every day, and obviously that's going to bring on its own struggles. You know, like, oh, why do you chew your food like that? Kind of thing. I'm not saying that isn't going to happen. What I am saying is those things are not going to lead to divorce per se. And obviously they may not lead to a baby. I'm not necessarily saying that there isn't going to be struggle with being home and being with each other all day. What I am saying is that this can provide opportunity to reconnect with each other on a level that you weren't able to do before. Me and my husband, we use this opportunity to let go of some of the other roles that came up in our relationship. You know, we own a business together, so we always had to have that role as being business partners. And don't get me wrong, that still came up during quarantine, but it wasn't such a huge part of our relationship and our marriage because that role had kind of been put on hold. So now during this quarantine time, the only role we really had to play was husband, wife, mother, father, and friends. And so getting rid of that distraction has helped us, you know, become more parallel and more balanced and more stable. And so let's talk really quickly about distractions and the whole triangle that couples will tend to create. So couples will have this kind of triangle kind of relationship. You'll have the couple, and then what they will do to stabilize themselves when they're unstable is bring in a third thing to stabilize them. That third thing will be the distraction. It could be work, it could be kids, it could be friends, it could be socializing, it could be traveling, it could be sex. Anything that becomes a distraction from the fact that we aren't stable on our own, which again is why a lot of divorces happen later when these distractions are removed, retirement, kids, whatever the case may be, i.e. COVID-19. When the couple realizes or can realize that, oh, this whole time, this third thing has been a distraction from our unstableness, we get rid of that distraction. And now we have to focus on us and what is making us unstable. What are the underlying issues? Rather it's lack of communication, rather it's unexpressed expectations, rather it's finances, parenting, in-laws, whatever, lack of respect, whatever, not feeling appreciated, whatever the root cause of this lack of stability, this distraction is gone. And now we need to focus on why we cannot be stable on our own two legs. And that is what I mean by how something like this could have been a benefit to a couple. Now, granted, if the couple went into the marriage unstable before, there may not be any hope. But if this kind of wobbliness has come over the course of time of us just kind of sweeping, then this time could have removed the rug and we could have pulled all that stuff out and took this time to dissect and clean it up. Deep cleaning the relationship is what this could have been. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. I would love to hear what you guys' thoughts are around this and what kind of went through your mind as you saw the different kind of memes around relationships and what's going to happen at the end of quarantine, and you know, all the pictures of the courthouse of couples, you know, running to get divorces or whatever, the hospital rooms with all these babies. I would love to hear what you guys thoughts are. I would love to also know, how have you been coping in your relationship? Has this been the best thing for your relationship? Has it been difficult? Has it been the worst thing? Like, what or how are some ways that you guys have utilized this time and made the best of it? So I would love to hear what you guys think. And if you have any questions about anything or want to go a little bit deeper into any of these topics, let me know that as well, and we will chat it up some more. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit that little button. For the rest of my family, I love you guys, and I will see you on the next one.